Will Speed for Rangers continue his point stream for HVSK? Will Beastimer be able to pull further ahead? Or will... what's his name? JZ be able to bring himself another surprise result? I'm not sure, but we're going to find out today. It's lights out and away we go, and JZ gets the best start. He's playing it very gutsy by going for the IndyCar, especially considering how difficult it is if the conditions are going to change. RBR Catalan's got their best start in a while, and I think they may have taken the lead as well. Although, wait, hold on. We're already starting to get hints of rain, and the race just started. I'm not entirely sure how intense it's going to be, but the drivers might have to think about pitting in if it's going to get relatively intense. But these drivers probably know the pace of what they're going to be thrown the best. So I'm mainly going to leave the decision-making to them. Beastimer has been pulling down the order quite a bit. Harvey is just waiting for some potential rain to kick in, considering he's using the best wet weather car, and I feel like that gambit may have paid off for him, considering even though he's in 7th right now, he's still, well, no, 8th right now, he's still in a relatively good spot. Rufus is leading the entire field, as, remember, he was a pretty noteworthy driver in the previous race, but he just had a couple too many big mistakes and ended up slipping away from that position. And for the first time in ages, RBR Catalan is moments away from leading a race, but considering the rain that's falling right now, they have to play their cards perfectly if they want to have a chance to try and pull ahead. Now here's the real question, who's going to box? Immediately we're getting a couple of people boxing as RBR Catalan dives in, Rufus decides to stay out, JZ boxes, Beastimer boxes, Speed for Rangers boxes, Arceus and Real Immortals decide not to box. This could be a pretty interesting gambit from them, but what wheels do they pick? We have inters for it's difficult to tell, but we have inters for a couple of them. Has anyone decided to go for the wets? Beastimer has not picked a compound yet. Maybe they were waiting to see how intense the weather would get. But I feel like Speed for Rangers, I'm not sure who picked the inters and who picked the wets, but depending on who picked what, that may determine quite a bit. We already have a couple of inter plays and a couple of wet plays, but the real question is if one of them is going to be better than the other. Arceus' Ditto already almost ends up sliding, as now Real Immortals is actually leading a race for the first time in his entire career. Remember, this was the guy who had a really good run in Japan, and who had a really good run in Czechia, but then ended up cutting one corner way too many times, and that ended up costing him the win entirely. Well, not the win, 4th place, considering the amount of penalties he was thrown. But now I feel like the rain is only starting to get more and more intense as the gap is starting to close up more and more and more and more. We're already starting to see some gaps form as RBR Catalan is doing the best out of all of the wet weather drivers. RG's Ditto is starting to fall behind quite a bit, and Rufus is in a really good spot. Look at where... Hold on! Wait, no! He went for the softs, and even though that worked for him initially, and he slips out! He does a full slip in a 180, handing... No, Real Immortals slipped out as well, and so did Arceus! And wait, what about JZ? RBR Catalan! They're having some grip issues as well, so maybe the full wet was the best decision to go for here. Do they stick out on the inters? Yes, they do! RBR Catalan stays out on the inters. JZ50 decides to box to switch to the full wet tires. Speed for Rangers makes that decision as well. One of them missed the pit lane. Rufus missed the pit lane and has to enter it in reverse. This is the most chaotic race start I've ever seen as they all dive into the pits to try and get wets immediately. And RBR Catalan, who I feel like, I'm pretty sure they went for wets initially. Now they, a driver who has been in a terrible position so many times before, is now leading with a 13-second gap with the best compound they could pick. Could RBR Catalan finally win a race here at Sochi? This has been cursing them ever since the beginning, but now with that 13-second gap, they have to nurse this car right to the end if they want to make it through. It's actually Rufus who has the fastest lap as well, although considering that they're no wait, they're in the 2024 car, so they're going to get a decent chunk of bonus points if they can hold on to that, which seems like it's going to be the case considering the wet weather. So yeah, RBR Catalan, the Romanian driver who's always been so close, yet so far when it comes to the results, is now 16 seconds ahead of that closest rival. But that closest rival is JZ50. So naturally, considering how notoriously difficult JZ50 has been to beat, it is still going to be an absolute handful for Catalan to try and stay ahead, especially considering that JZ50 has already proven to be a bit of an expert when it comes to using this car in the wet, despite how difficult it is. But remember, Sochi is one of the longest tracks in the game. It is an endurance race, and JC50 actually recovers the back from slipping a couple of times. This could be definitely a race of, oh, who's going to slip out, instead of a race of who has more pace. But also, quite close to each other, Speed for Ages and their championship rival Beastimer are right next to each other. Remember, Speed for Ages is scoring for HVSK, and if Speed for Ages, well, Speed for Ages is naturally going to get a lot of points considering he's in the IndyCar, so that's going to absolutely propel him forward. Same case with JC50, as Beastimer is the one who's missing out thanks to that car choice. But look at this. All three of the main championship contenders. Hold on! Speed for Ages cuts it really wide, and I think that may have been a track limit too. Yeah, Speed for Ages tumbling down the order, and once again, a major mistake is costing. And it's another major mistake! Speed for Ages spins again! If he's gonna get a podium, then he's gonna have to seriously start focusing on not spinning the car repeatedly. He said beforehand that he didn't know how the IndyCar performed in the wet, but I think he's probably finding out the hard way, don't you think? So yeah, Beastimer claws his way into third place with a car that's far from optimal for this weather, and JZ50 is just trying everything he can to try and catch up piece by piece by piece. Remember, JZ50 is the championship leader, and they need all the points they can get, and right now, it's looking like JZ50 is going to get the most points from this race, considering they're using the IndyCar in the wet, which means that they're going to get a total of 36 points if they can finish the race in second. And naturally, their biggest championship rivals right now are Speed for Ages and Beastimer. Speed for Ages tried to go for the IndyCar gambit, but it doesn't seem to be working for them as well as JZ50 is. They're starting to spin out once again. And Beastimer decided to take an even bigger risk by picking the 2024 Red Bull, which even though it's a relatively solid car, it's not the best in the wet weather. But the real question is if RVR Catalan can keep that 14-second lead that they got from those pits, because if they want to stay ahead, they're gonna have to make sure they at least don't lose 1 second per lap. And looking at the pace right now by comparing JC50 and Catalan, it's looking like Catalan bled 1 second in the previous lap. So they have to take this really thin line between pace and safety as they actually run over one of the yellow sausage curves. I'm not entirely sure how much of a balance I'd have to give this, but RVR Catalan needs to be tactical with this if they want to win the race. We're already a quarter of the race through, and I'm curious to see how this is gonna end. Hold on, everyone's... Oh my god! What's happened to Arto? How the... Wait, did they get caught on the fence? I think they got caught on the fence. I'm not sure. Sorry, Arto. No red flagging in these. What the hell? I'm sorry, Arto. I'm sorry, but that is just... Yeah, I'll give you P8 for that. I'll give you P8 for that. That is hilarious. But yeah, I think JC50 might have just punched out another second out of RVR Catalan's lead if we check the timers here. Hold on, let me look here. 35. No, wait, hold on. RVR Catalan gets it relatively even. That's the kind of pace they need for at least a couple more laps if they want to see their current lead as a thing that will establish itself for the full race. As remember, this weather does not look like it's going to get any better. It's seeming like it is going to pour down for the entire thing. And RVR Catalan played their cards perfectly. It's been a non-stop Beastimer win streak since they ended up getting wins. But this could be broken by a driver who's always had winning elude them. Honestly, I'd be entirely down for that considering the position RVR Catalan's in right now. Oh, and Beastimer runs it wide and locks up the wheels. So if Beastimer gets a massive spark of pace, it seems like they're not going to be able to make that much use out of it. A massive shame from Beastimer, but remember, they still have basically the least point gain out of all of the front-running drivers, because even if Beastimer is still in third, they currently have to deal with only 5 additional bonus points compared to both Speed for Ages and Jay-Z's doubled points, considering they're in the IndyCar. It's seeming like RVR Catalan's lead is going to stay completely firm. Hold on, it just immediately went to I would love to see their perspective on that, because I have no clue how that would have looked like for them. Like, I'm sorry. See, Catalan's still remaining very firm about their lead, as what they need right now is consistency, although they did take it relatively wide with that yellow line curb. So Catalan very much needing to keep themselves a lot more careful than that if they want to keep the win. Let me check that. Was that a track limit? No, it wasn't. Very nicely done from RVR Catalan, despite tapping the I don't know what you'd call that, like a no curbs and a no sausage curb. So is that like the elongated curb? Is that what you call it? I don't know. So now, RVR Catalan is actually able to bleed 1 second per lap and still win the race, as they've been keeping that pace very nicely controlled, considering the environment that's with them. And Harvey, the person who was prepared for this and picked the best car for the wet weather, I'm not entirely sure how well they're doing, but they're still keeping themselves relatively stable, so good for them. Whoa! Whoa! Wait! Hold up! I mean, I don't know if I'll have to censor that when I get to the full upload, but for anyone watching the unedited VOD that's gonna go into my second channel, what is this? Beer Bowl from TF2? What the fuck? Okay, normally I'm not up for like high energy jokes like that, but that was perfect. That was perfect. They're cursing in the chat now. Oh boy. Okay, wait, I think JC may have made some sort of a blunder. I'm not sure, but looking at their previous lap times, one of them seemed to be a bit longer than what everyone else was going for. Yeah, I think it was this section where they got a 31 at that point. I briefly saw them. But yeah, the battle for second place is now heating up between both Beastman and Jay-Z. Beastman is more of a loose cannon with his pace, while Jay-Z has been keeping things relatively consistent for his run time. Oh god, I'm running low on water. Didn't think I'd need that much for the race today, but wow, life's full of surprises, isn't it? Okay, now it's not funny. Now it's not funny. Hang on a minute. Did Catalan make a mistake? Let me check the split times. I'm not sure if that was just some jank from the camera, but I swear I just saw RVR Catalan slip out. Yeah, look, that car's getting very unstable now. Let me check the split time for that. No, that was a relatively normal 30. Maybe that was just some camera trickery, I'm not sure. So, yeah, just as a reminder, the reason why the IndyCar is so bad in the wet is not just because it's so unstable, but the IndyCar's best trait of its absurd tire preservation just doesn't exist in wet weather, because the wet compounds for the IndyCar wear at the exact same rate as all of the other wet compounds. That was likely due to balance, but at that point, why keep them so absurd for like, the dry weather? I'm not too sure. But still, Beastema is on a rampage trying to catch up to JC50, and considering the Beastema's I'm not sure if I'd call the 2024 car the weaker car. I think they're kind of equal, because like, while the Indy car is a better general car than the 2024 car, the 2024 car is more well-suited to the wet weather. Not to say that it is well-suited to the wet weather, but it's just a little better at the wet weather than the Indy car. It's more so like one of them feels like getting stabbed with a knife, and another one feels like getting stabbed with a salt-laced knife. Hold on, I think Catalan must have made a blunder there. Yeah, that's a cut track limit for the first sector, and I feel like Catalan must have played the I feel like Catalan must have played the penalty for that really nice, because they only lost about 3 seconds from it, and they seemingly have that time to bleed if they're going to lose a second per lap. but it's seeming like Catalan are still keeping themselves firm as we enter the halfway point for this race, with RVR Catalan still dominating at the front of the field, which is something they've never been able to do beforehand, either due to the competition being too strong or them having a mixture of bad luck. But JZ50 isn't going to let that go for free, considering that he is still making ground on RVR Catalan. Second per lap. So Catalan still has to keep things consistent, and not to mention the wild card of Beastman that's still approaching at a very rapid pace. Hell, I think Beastman is even going faster than JZ, which, I mean, if Beastman comes in second, that's still not going to be enough points to outscore him, considering what JZ's using, but it would be a statement. But yeah, JZ50 still in a relatively good spot as they get closer and closer to RVR Catalan. Beastava is looking for any little inch of pace that they can wring out of that car, and RVR Catalan still keeping things clean, still keeping things consistent. Going down the rest of the grid, Speed for Ages has another slip! That was perfectly timed, wasn't it? And now, Harvey, on their debut, might actually have a chance to outscore HCSK, considering how stable the 2007 car it is in the wet weather. I'm not too sure. Oh, but they have a major lockup! And wait, hold on a second. I feel like Beastman may have just gotten the position from JZ, but this is going to be to the wire from here to the next lap. It's all going to come down to who keeps the car more stable. I feel like Beastava has gotten that mono down, and now Beastava has the position. And considering that Beastava has shown themselves to have much better pace than Catalan, maybe Beastava will be able to catch up to the front runner before the end of the race. Either way, this one's going to be close, so you don't want to miss it. Flicking through the chat, they're still going, and now it's I feel like that looks a lot more provocative than the smoke, actually. Oh. So yeah, Beastava still in a relatively good spot, making up enough time to try and catch up to Catalan, but JZ50 still a little bit further behind, so even if Beastava makes a mistake, JZ50 could still pick up the slack. RVR Catalan only has 1 second worth of breathing room, so if RVR Catalan makes any major mistakes, this race could still be Beastava's for the taking. Close my door there. And remember, Sochi is one of the most difficult tracks to keep your head clear on. So I feel like even though RVR Catalan has a relatively large lead, the pressure will still be mounting onto them all the same. And flicking through the rest of the field, both JZ50 and Beastava are doing a really good job at not hitting any track limits, which is exactly the kind of thing they need right now. Although Beastava did take it a little bit wide on that corner, but that might just be the league racing line. I'm not entirely well versed in the lines these guys take, but they quite often like to take some corners very wide. So yeah, 8 laps to go, and how did RVR Catalan do on the previous lap? Ooh, that wasn't exactly the best, as Beastava gains yet another second. RVR Catalan still has the advantage here, but just barely. Now that Beastava has some clearance, he just needs to focus on the track and lock the hell in, and he may have a chance to take it. Although he did tap the sausage curb there, so that may have slowed down his pace just a little bit. I feel like Catalan has to focus on playing it a little bit less safe and primarily just start pushing for these next sections, because if Beastava doesn't make any mistakes for these next 8 laps, he will catch up to Catalan. Yeah, and look here, the gap is already reaching the 8-second mark, so Catalan needs to find a little bit of pace to try and keep themselves ahead of Beastava. This, I feel like, unless there's a mistake from Beastava, is going to go down to the wire. Will RVR Catalan be able to clutch out that first win, or will Beastava be able to find that little bit of pace they need to catch up to such a monstrous lead? Remember, Beastava is one of the prospects to take the entire championship, so he is not going to take that kind of challenge sitting down. JZ is having some problems with the grip for the car, so I feel like he's starting to slip behind just more and more with each lap. 7 laps to go, and RVR Catalan had a decent lap there, but I feel like it could have been a little bit better, especially considering the high pressure situation they're in right now. Does Beastava bring themselves into the advantage zone? they don't. RVR Catalan still has the advantage by about 1 second. Oh, but that... Oh, RVR Catalan cuts a track limit! That could be huge for the ramifications of this race, as Beastama is now only a few seconds away. If Beastama doesn't cut any track limits, then this race is going to be his for the taking. RVR Catalan potentially thrown away their one and only shot at winning, as now Beastama is within eye shot of RVR Catalan. This is going to be a 7-lap dogfight to the finish, as now there's only a 4-second gap between the underdog and the king. Who is going to come out on top? Will RVR Catalan keep that cool and find a little bit of pace? Or will Beastama charge on to a 5th race win in a row, despite some very unlucky circumstances near the beginning of the race? All Catalan had to do was keep their head down and stay cool, but now they've made this precarious situation for themselves. Catalan takes that section relatively clean, but Beastama takes it a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter, and brings out just a little bit more pace. And I feel like Beastama is probably used to this kind of rain hitting the track. Maybe they practiced in all conditions, or maybe they're just that experience to get every single individual racing line on the fly. I don't know. I'm not up to inclined to comment on it, considering Beastama has to do all of the proving for himself. Of course, I can't just talk up someone's skill level without them proving it. RVR Catalan actually does a pretty good job at keeping themselves at a similar pace to Beastama. Here's the same section where Catalan had an issue beforehand. Do they take it clean? Very clean from RVR Catalan. Does Beastama do the same? Oh, it's a little bit more shaky for Beastama as he ends up tapping one of the sausage curves. That may bring a little bit of pace out of him, but I'm not too sure how much. RVR Catalan goes for the next corner. Not the cleanest from them. That's going to lose him some precious time as Beastama does it perfectly. Just slingshotting it through that, as now the gap goes to under 3 seconds. Beastama is only moments away from claiming yet another race win. That is going to be 5 race wins in a row if Beastama can bring himself to the front of the field. But of course, he still needs to put his head down and do it. But as we all know, Beastama is one of the kings of consistency. Even despite that little blunder he had with the locking up of the tires back then, he can drive like an animatronic when he needs to focus. This would be an incredible try for Beastama if he's able to win it, but it would also be heartbreak for RVR Catalan, who has to wait another day to get that all-elusive race win. And now, you can start to see it setting in for RVR Catalan. They lock up the wheels just a little bit. Beastama takes it really clean, and despite there being a little bit of a hiccup, he still has immense stability over the car. Seriously, Beastama is in another league for these races. He's a one-man army, as now the gap is gone under 2 seconds, as Beastama is now moments away from snatching the lead away from RVR Catalan. The only thing that can stop Beastama at this point is if he gets another track limit penalty. But I feel like, considering the consistency, Beastama understands the assignment, he knows what he has to do, and he knows that he will do everything to pass it with flying colors. A little bit of a twitch from RVR Catalan. They take the corner relatively smoothly. Beastama takes it smoother. The gap, I think, is now less than a second. No, it's not. Either it's not or it hasn't updated, but it's seeming like less than a second to me. No, there's still a 1 second gap. RVR Catalan needs to try and find out where they're losing that 1 second gap to Beastama, just so they can make sure they don't make the same mistakes. Catalan takes it tight, Beastama takes it fast, and Beastama has the better idea as they take that corner even smoother. They are now in only a few cars lengths of each other. This could be Beastama's moment to get a 5-race-long win streak. How clean does he take that curve? He takes it a little less clean in than Catalan, actually. Catalan, I feel like, is starting to enter crisis mode, considering how close Beastama has been getting. All RVR Catalan had to do was avoid cutting any track limits, and that was a goal that they failed. So now, it's Catalan versus Beastama, and Beastama, I feel like, has got the overtake right here. Catalan takes it really tight to try and hold on, but RVR Catalan stays ahead for just 1 more lap. No, they don't! Beastama has broken into the lead, and now there's only 4 laps for Beastama to lead, where he needs to try and keep that consistent focus he's always had. It's been an incredible drive from both of them. Beastama actually has a slightly slippery section of there, handing RVR Catalan the lead once more. But again, that's proven to be Beastimer's weak section, and Beastimer's strong at pretty much every other point of the track. So I won't be surprised if he finds it his pace once again. RVR Catalan taps the elongated curb, and that loses them the position once again, as now Beastimer brings himself back into the lead with only 4 laps to go. And flicking through the track limits, there is not a single red here. Beastimer knows when to go fast, he knows when to be consistent, and he is incredible at controlling those states of mind. Catalan actually did that beautifully, though. Hold on. Did you see how close they cut it to the wall? That little bit of speed is definitely going to help them when it comes to catching up to Beastimer, as these two are still very close to each other in terms of pace. RVR Catalan takes that corner beautifully. They're stepping the back end out a little bit, and they are clinging to Beastimer like their life depends on it. I didn't expect this kind of pace to come out of Catalan considering what they're up against, but Catalan somehow are still in the battle after losing the position. Beastimer takes the corner. They both do a little bit of a slip, but it's relatively equal. Beastimer still not a second away from RVR Catalan, as Catalan is locking the hell in to try and get their first race win. This is the section that Beastimer often screws up. Does he do it this time? Oh, it's a little bit of a run over the sausage curve as Catalan on it perfectly once again. But I feel like Beastimer has enough of a gap to keep himself ahead despite that. There's 3 laps to go, and there's only 3 more laps where Beastimer needs to focus. Ooh, beautiful from Beastimer. Not as nice for RVR Catalan. I feel like that gap might increase to 1 second any second now. No, they're still within a second of each other as RVR Catalan actually gained time in that section. This is a battle that's really going down to the wire, and really, I didn't expect RVR Catalan to still be fighting Beastimer, considering the pace that Beastimer had when trying to catch up. It's another beautiful segment from RVR Catalan as this battle is still going. RVR Catalan does not want to lose their one chance at getting a race win, or at least their one chance from what they can see now. Beastimer actually takes it fairly sloppy as Catalan actually does that section a lot nicer. This battle is still raging on after all of this time, and Beastimer is pressured into being a lot more ballsy for every single sector. He actually cut a track limit as well. I don't know if Beastimer has any penalties, but if that activates, that could hand RVR Catalan the win. Okay, did Beastimer end up cutting another one there? I think he might have. No, he didn't. But remember, Beastimer now has either 1 or 2 marks for his track limits. So Beastimer's still very much under threat with 3 laps left to go. Will it be a 5-race win streak for Beastimer? Will it be a first race win for RVR Catalan? Beastimer takes that section beautifully. Like, wow! In just 1 corner, Beastimer has now increased the gap to a second and a little bit. But remember, considering the pressure of... I think that may be it! I think that may be it! No, it was a bad section for RVR Catalan, but they haven't quite hit the track limit yet. So Beastimer, even though they have a 2-second gap, they are still 1 major mistake from giving the race lead and the race win to RVR Catalan. Because remember that red text over there. That is all important when talking about a full wet race. The race isn't over until it's over. Beautiful section from Beastimer. RVR Catalan cuts a low track limit, and that's it! The battle is over! RVR Catalan cuts yet another track limit, and their first race win will have to wait. As after a gauntlet of a battle, Beastimer storms off to seemingly claim his 5th race win in a row. What a duel between Catalan and Beastimer. I'm sure Catalan's chance will come once again on another day. But now, all Beastimer has to do is stay calm, keep his focus, and a 5th consecutive race win is his. The only thing he's missing out on this race is the fastest lap. But that was something that Rufus claimed in the 2024 car while the race was dry, so I don't think he's going to go for that. And now RVR Catalan has switched tyres to full wets and has pretty much just given up on their hope to try to get a race win here. It was an incredible duel between Beastimer and RVR Catalan, but in the end, Beastimer's raw pace over RVR Catalan's resolve. Honestly, we need more battles like that in this league. I'm pretty sure that if RVR Catalan didn't make that track limit mistake earlier, we could be having this duel right to the line. But hey, a good duel is still a good duel. Like, I haven't seen a battle that intense since the one in Japan. Wow. So what I have to think about with that. But wait, this battle may still not be over, as Jay-Z, despite being on more worn tires, is only a few seconds away from RVR Catalan. It would be one hell of an upset if Jay-Z would have cut ahead of Catalan in the final laps, but that is still potentially on the table. Although they did end up cutting a track limit quite early on. Arto is still in pure pain. Like, how does this even happen? I don't get it. So now we move on to the final lap, with Beastman having a 12-second gap on RVR Catalan. And now, I feel like even after that, Catalan is definitely going to have to reflect on what's been their best race so far. They took a gambit by immediately going for wets, and it paid off by giving them a full pit stop's worth of a gap. That could have been their chance to get a race win had Beastman not been on their tail for that race. As we all know by now, Beastman is a driver who will take no compromises. He sees a chance, he goes for it. He sees a line, he goes for it. He sees an opportunity to push himself further, he goes for it. Hold on, I'm gonna do some calculations real quick. So Speed for Ages is in 5th. That means that he's going to score 10 points from this, and Beastama he's going to score 20 points from this, and Beastama is going to win with that car, which means he's going to score 30. With this race win, Beastama is going to cross an incredibly important threshold, as by coming in first, with Speed for Ages coming in 5th, Beastama now overtakes HVSK in the driver standings to make him the closest driver in the order. It was a long time coming, considering how late he started and considering how unstoppable he's been during his reign. I feel like we should have all seen it coming. It was 1 win, 2 win, 3 wins, 4 wins, and now 5 wins as Beastama crosses the line to win the Russian Grand Prix in what has to be one of the closest battles I've ever seen. RVR Catalan comes out of the duel in 2nd place after giving us some incredibly close bouts in the second half of the race. And JZ50 comes in 3rd after keeping their car relatively controlled and ties Beastama for scoring the most points. But I feel like the most important thing to happen here is that Beastama has now scored more points than HVSK. Considering that HCSK has always been someone who's been doubted as overtaking Jay-Z, now things have gotten a lot tougher for the German. Thank you for coming, everyone, and I'll see you next week.